It's midday right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Welcome to Lunchtime Politics. We keep track of what's playing out in politics at midday and, of course, share with you the biggest of all the stories in the polity. Let's get started with the headlines. Former Minister of Petroleum Resources, Diezani Madueke, acquitted of multiple charges bordering on bribery by the Southwark Crown Court in the United Kingdom. In 48 hours, it will be down to the wires. The people will decide who leads them as governor in the next 4 years in Ekiti State amongst 13 candidates cleared by the Independent National Electoral Commission. We'll discuss this issue today. Now let's get things started with a meeting that happened last night. The debate over security reform in Nigeria is taking a major step forward as the Nigeria Governors Forum renews a strong backing for the creation of state police. This comes after a high-level meeting in Abuja with the state attorneys general, where proposed constitutional amendments and the framework for implementation were carefully reviewed. Briefing journalists after the closed-door meeting at the Secretariat of the Forum in Abuja, the governors emphasized the need for proposed state police to be constitutionally sound and aligned with the country's principles of federalism.
We members of the Nigeria Governors Forum, NGF, at our meeting held today, deliberated on issues affecting the country, and following extensive deliberations, the Forum resolved as follows. The Forum received a presentation from the NGF Secretariat and a delegation of the Honorable Attorneys General of the states on efforts to support establishing state police in Nigeria. It noted a dedicated consultation with the Attorney General to review the proposed constitutional amendments and frameworks. Governors emphasized the need for the state police to be constitutionally sound and aligned with federalism and citizens' rights. The Forum noted the collaborative effort and added that the consultation outcomes will strengthen the state's collective position. The Forum received a presentation on the National Solar Supergrid Initiative, NSSG, a proposal to expand electricity access through large-scale, decentralized solar generation integrated with a national high-voltage transmission network. The Forum noted the initiative's potential to support industrialization, improve energy security, strengthen state electricity markets, and accelerate economic growth. Governors reiterated their commitment to ongoing power sector reforms and to strengthening collaboration among stakeholders to expand access to reliable and affordable electricity for Nigerians.
Well, in a dramatic courtroom development, the trial of former Nigerian Petroleum Minister Diezani Madueke has ended a major legal victory for her as a London jury acquitted the former OPEC president and our two co-defendants of all criminal charges. The verdict brings a close to a closely watched case that has drawn international attention. The verdict brings all of this, given the fact that she was alleged to have been involved in some bribery incidents in the country while she served as the country's Minister of Petroleum Resources. Juliana Lainka, London Bureau Chief, has an update for us.
Closely watched corruption trials involving a former Nigerian public official has ended in complete acquittal here in London. After more than 5 months of proceedings and over 46 hours of jury deliberations, a jury at Southwark Crown Court has cleared former Nigerian Petroleum Minister Diezani Madueke of all 6 charges she faced, including 5 counts of accepting bribes and 1 count of conspiracy to commit bribery. Her co-defendants, her brother Doye Agama and oil industry executive Olatimbo Ayinde were also found not guilty on all charges. The UK's National Crime Agency had alleged that while serving as Nigeria's petroleum minister between 2010 and 2015, Alison Madueke received luxury benefits, including cash, private jet travel, chauffeur-driven vehicles and designer goods in exchange for influence connected to oil sector contracts. Throughout the trial, all three defendants denied wrongdoing. Today's verdict represents a major setback for the National Crime Agency following a lengthy international investigation, and it brings to a close one of the most high-profile cases ever brought in the UK against a former senior Nigerian government official. For Alison Madueke, who became the first female president of OPEC in 2014, the verdict marks a significant legal victory after years of scrutiny in multiple jurisdictions. But while the criminal proceedings in London have now concluded, questions surrounding governance, transparency and accountability in Nigeria's oil sector are likely to continue long after today's verdict. Juliana Olayinka reporting for Channels Television News at Southwark Crown Court.
Now we're counting down 48 hours literally to what will play out in Ekiti State, but INEC says it has successfully concluded the collection of permanent voter cards, PVCs, ahead of the election on Saturday. That's June the 20th, 2026. INEC reports that registered voters in Ekiti have risen from over 900,000 to over 1 million. That's 1,059,000 in 2026 as against 987,647 in 2023. Now that follows a cleanup of the voters register. The Commission also recorded over 97% PVC collection rate after extending the exercise deadline to accommodate stakeholders' requests. INEC says 14,406 replacement PVCs applications were processed, with most already collected by voters. It urges residents to turn out peacefully and participate fully, assuring a free, fair and credible election in the state. Okay, so let's get to the conversation because in the next 48 hours, attention will be on Ekiti State. But a lot of national issues have actually swallowed up. Some people don't even know there's an election, the off-cycle election coming up in Ekiti. So that's why we're here to help out. Bukola Udo, who is the Executive Director of Impact Development Initiative, is one of the parts of the CSOs that are there to monitor this exercise. Mr. Udo, good to see you and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here again.
So I'm looking at some data from the exercise, but you've been there, I guess, maybe 1 day or 2 days. I don't know how long you've been there, and everybody looking ahead or to Saturday. What do you have as maybe some discoveries you feel you can share with us before we get a deep dive into what we really want to examine today on the program?
Well, basically, the election in Ekiti is just probably 48 hours or less now, and I think all arrangements have been in place. Before joining this interview, I just left CBN, where sensitive materials have been distributed to the EEOs, and then with the security agencies to move them to the RAC center. No, so it shows that the conversation around preparation of INEC is on top gear. So they are ready as it is. We also saw some staff from the headquarters of INEC at that particular place. So basically, from the part of INEC and with what they told us yesterday, that they are ready. Our job as observer is to now assess that readiness on the election day in terms of their preparation, in terms of the processes, and then to also see that the election is free, fair, and credible. The other aspect is the security agencies. They are also on ground. Looking at, coming from INEC office, you see loads of security agencies at the INEC office, the CBN, and most of them are ready to move along with the sensitive material to the RAC center. So again, from the part of the citizens, then Ekiti looks like The atmosphere is already an election atmosphere. If you ask me, most times the off-cycle election atmosphere is already here in Ekiti. But at the same time, there have been about people are moving around peacefully, and there have not been any incidents. People are moving about their businesses. But by tomorrow, we know that the atmosphere is going to be a bit changed again as we move closer to the election. But as it is now, this is what the situation is in Ekiti at the moment.
So, Mr. Edo, when you look at this exercise coming up on Saturday, would you say is anything close to a high stakes, or this is going to be as calm as possible?
Well, I think it's going to be as calm as possible. I think during your introduction, you said many people don't even know, probably they are not aware of the election in Ekiti. It's because this election is not our own assessment with what we have seen on ground. It's not like a competitive election. So it's election that looks like is just between because APC is on the ballot, the incumbent governor seeking re-election, and then it looks like every other political party are not really putting up a strong show, let me put it that way. Some political parties are still having cases in court. Some doesn't even know who is who. You look at PDP, you look at ADC, you look at I think NDC, and when you look at it, it looks like the incumbent governor is actually the one even doing much of the campaigning. Most of the campaigning we have seen in Ekiti State has come from the incumbent governor. So I've not seen serious competition in this election. So I think for us, it is one election that is likely that we predict will go smoothly. But the most important thing again is that why you are not likely going to have a tense atmosphere or competition in this election. We also want to use the opportunity to assess INEC processes and their readiness, knowing fully well that a lot of things are also wrapped around this election. Number one, this election is going to be fully conducted with the new legal framework, most especially in terms of transmission of election results. Don't forget that this election is also going to be fully conducted with the new INEC guideline that was released just few weeks ago. And then again, you also know that this is the first election that I want to believe that the INEC chairman is fully in charge in terms of preparation, in terms of planning. So these are some of the things we want to actually look at. And we know that if INEC can do well in an election that is not fully contested, competitive, is fully contested because you have 16 political party contesting. But in terms of competition, if it's not going to be that high in competition, we want to believe that the processes of INEC should be top-notch in this election.
So what would you say, because I know that for you and I, who either on the field or in the studio, we're more interested in the process than the result. It's the politicians that want to kill themselves over a result or victory. That's none of our business. We just want to be sure the process is as follow through according to law. What do you think that the distractions that the opposition faces, maybe at the national level from some of the parties we're familiar with in terms of litigation, leadership issues, it weighed on the momentum of their outing for this particular election? Because the danger sometimes is the effect that when it happens, the incumbent, whatever that party is, may have a smooth sail. And so the ability to query performance is quite limited. Is that what you see?
Well, I think that I agree with you. There are a lot of distractions, and those distractions is not basically, for us, it's not basically about the result of the election. It's about protecting democracy, one. It's about the processes. You see, Nigeria today, interestingly, Nigeria today is classified as authoritarian democracy. And that's sad. And what it means is that, look, there are some principles of democracy and tenet of democracy that we normally should be our guiding force. However, we don't really have that, or those things have been a bit low in Nigeria. However, we keep having an election every 4 years because we want to think that having election every 4 years is synonymous to democracy. No, it's just a subset, and it has to be holistic. For instance, you are talking about independent judiciary. You are talking about independent legislature. These are the things that talk about democracy. And then the process of INEC, credible election, it is not about the outcome of an election. So what it means for us is that, look, it is not about who is going to win this election. It is about the process. It is about protecting the democratic space. And if you ask me, Ekiti election is just a bit of the dots and like a rehearsal. Let me say a semi-rehearsal to what we are likely going to see in 2027. I say a semi-rehearsal because the main rehearsal is going to be in Osun election. And if you look at Osun election, what we have on ground, in fact, my organization have been able to document over 46 cases of violence as I'm talking to you in Osun election. So the competitiveness is in Osun election is there. So, but that now tells us that that is just an election that is maybe after Osun election, you are just going to have like about 5 to 6 months to the general election. But what we have in Ekiti now is also like a semi-rehearsal, and that is why it is important. However, we also know that because some of the political party are not really, the dynamics within Ekiti state is a bit peculiar. Let me put it that way, because you find some of the opposition are also aligning with the ruling party, and they are working for the ruling party in Ekiti. So that dynamics, that may not, what we want to see in 2027 may not be, Ekiti may not provide that test run really for it until we get to Osun election.
As you've rightly said, the stakes are not as high as maybe that of Osun State in the coming month, but it's still an election. Let's see how this will play out. But when we come back after this break, we're going to do some data extrapolations, and I'll need your input on it. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. My guest is Bukola Idowu, who is the Executive Director of Impact Development Initiative. Is on ground in Ado Ekiti ahead of the election taking place, governorship election taking place in that state on Saturday, which is barely 48 hours or less from now. Mr. Idowu, thanks for staying with us. So let's do those data extrapolations from the Situation Room. So I'm looking at the numbers I pulled up from the search engine. I can tell that averagely, the voter turnout compared to the national average is very fair, or fairly fair, if you will, about 45%. If you go from 46 in 99 to 43 in 2003 to 41 in 2007, 2010, which was the first off cycle that started our cycle, there was an outlier moment of 73%, and then we had 47, 43, and the last was 36%. So the last time we had registered voters in Ekiti, from the data I have here, that exceeded 1 million was in 1999, and the voter turnout stood around 46%. What do you see?
Well, one of the things that data is telling us is that Ekiti has one of the lowest registered voter in Nigeria. And that is one of the things we need to see, because it's just from this recent registration that they've now been able to move above 1 million, which is 1,059,000. But what it means is that as of the time they are having 36% in the last governorship election, what they have was about 900,000. So it also shows that 36% of 900,000 registered voter actually came out to vote in that election. But being that as it may, we may not need to worry much about that particular data. It's not like they really have low voter registration. But because you have to look at the population of Ekiti State, estimated population of Ekiti State is around 3.8 million. But don't forget that from that 3.8 million too, you also have a situation that you still have the infant, you still have the people that are not above 18. So, but what it means again is that, look, you have over 1 million people register for this election. But I think it's about, the data of voter turnout from 2018, 2022, and then 2014, 2018, and 2022. It has also been downward trend, because the list before 36% was about 40 something percent, I think 42 if I'm right, percent. So it shows that it has also been coming down. But we also want to see what the data of the turnout will look like in this election. But with what I have seen, I'm afraid we may have lesser than that 36% in this election.
Oh, wow. That's a bit. For a state that the population is small, the registered voters are quite small, which are expected more. In fact, for the purpose of context, when we said 73% in 2010, so that people understand how small this data is, the registered voters in that year was about 499, slightly less than 500,000, and just about 300 and something thousand came out to vote. So, who do we blame here? INEC, the political parties, or the people themselves not interested in who leads them? Or just their general thing? You know, there's places that they're not really interested in things. So who do we blame here?
Well, I think the basic, without apportioning blame actually, but I will say the political party have not been doing the best they should be doing, and it is across board. You see, one of the things we have seen political party do in Nigeria is to sit back and expect that NOA, and expect that INEC, and expect that civil society are the one with the responsibility of voter education. And we have not been seeing political party doing much of the voter education and mobilization. So, and I think this is their responsibility. See, the beneficiary of the vote is not even the media. The beneficiary of the vote is not the civil society. The beneficiary of any vote in an election is the political party. And they are the one that should be mobilizing the people to register. They are the one that should be mobilizing the people to come out and vote in an election. So we have not been seeing that much in Nigeria. I have been in a room before where the political party are pointing accusing finger to INEC and say they are not doing much they should do when it comes to voter education. No, it is the responsibility of the political party to do much of this. And I think what we need to do is that the approach now going to election and going to 2027 election should be multi-stakeholder approach. For instance, the civil society, the NOA, the INEC political party. Or else, if you don't look at a multi-stakeholder approach, we are likely going to have the lowest, voter turnout in the history of Nigeria in 2027, because we have to declare, as important as it is for people to register and come out to vote in an election. Because though there are a lot of things responsible for lower voter turnout, INEC is there, security is also there, education is also there. Time may not permit me to begin to break most of these things down, because the security environment at which election is being conducted also contributes to turning out in an election. Trust in INEC also contribute to turning out in an election. What about the education too? What about and so most of these things we need to put it together to begin to say, look, people need to come out in an election. But if you ask me, greater responsibility lies on the shoulder of the political party. Others, media, INEC, NOA, civil society are just supporting. They are the one that need the vote. They are the one that should be mobilizing the people to come out.
Well said. Mr. Do, before I let you go, I'm looking at comparative. The last election, governorship election was in Anambra, and from all the data available, Anambra is more in everything. LGAs, wards, PU, registered voters. But by 8 a.m., we're there together. We already saw results because the resident electoral commissioner insisted that as soon as she starts, she's not going to stop until the result is announced. So this is a smaller election compared to that. How early do you think we can get a winner for this one from where you sit and what you know?
So two things I will say, but mark my word, we are likely going to see delayed result on IREV. And I mean, we are likely going to see a delayed result. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is this. After Anambra, don't forget, we have had FCT area council election. And FCT area council election, what happened was that the turnout was very low. So in some places, election ended around 12, around 1. I know counting has been done around 2 o'clock. However, on that election day, the first result landed on IREV 4:18 p.m. In some places, results have been counted around 2 p.m. First result landed on IREV around 18. My expectation is that that should have been corrected. But if that has not been corrected, you might likely going to see late, arrival of result on IREV. But again, I also think that today, I mean, the day of election, within 24 hours, we should be able to know the winner of the election.
All right, this is Professor Mupiton's major test. This electoral act is first governorship election. So let's see how it performs. Thank you so much, Bukola Idowu, Executive Director, Impact Development Initiative, and the entire team of CSOs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And that's it on the program. Thanks for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. You've been served on Lunchtime Politics. Bye-bye.